Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Hi-Fi Studios in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting alongside us, as always, is Filmy and Phil.
How we doing tonight, guys?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we start our horror celebration as we cover our top 5 scariest movies of the 1970s.
You know what's really scary is we're doing a podcast in person. It's so weird to not see you on a screen in front of me. We're actually in the same room.
I agree.
That's scary.
I agree. We have done a couple since the pandemic, but very few. So this
Like
is still very special when we get together face to face. Phil's in the room, Matt, me, and our guest who's going to be joining us shortly.
Yeah, John Otterbacher is back in the house once again. Actually, we're in his house, as it were. He's got an event coming up for IFA, which is the IFA block party. He's got a new movie. He's got a podcast. All kinds of stuff to talk to John about.
He is the jack of all trades, isn't he, Matt Kay?
Indeed.
John's been on the show several times. Can we throw this early into the fish tank, Phil? How many times has John Otterbacher been on Cinemajaw? My guess is this is his 5th, maybe 6th appearance.
Could be more. Could be like 7 or 8.
John has his top 5 scariest movies of the 1970s picked out as well. Jawheads, we are going to do 3 weeks in a row, scariest movies of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I think this sounds great.
And then we should throw out like a poll on Twitter or Instagram. What is the scariest decade for film? Was it the 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I like that idea, Matt Kay.
My vote's on 80s.
Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Oh, yeah, we're keeping it rolling. It's still Wes Anderson month, so we got another Wes Anderson fact coming at you. And I'll tease this one a little bit. We actually already talked about this film, so you're getting a double dose of this one.
And we have 2 reviews, The Last Duel and Smoke and Mirrors, the story of Tom Savini, a little documentary.
Can't wait for those. Plus, in honor of The Last Duel, which stars Matt Damon and Adam Driver, it's directed by Ridley Scott. And
Who's that?
Both these actors actually work with great directors like Ridley Scott throughout their career. Matt, you are going to take John on in Damon Driver director movie trivia. I'm going to give you one of their movies, and all you have to do is tell me who directed it.
Oh, my God. Jeez, make it easy on us, man.
I don't think it's that hard.
All right. We'll see, I guess. That sounds almost impossible.
Let's get this show rolling with a Wes Anderson fact.
Yes, as I alluded to, this is a repeat film that we have a fact on. It's The Fantastic Mr. Fox, just like we did last week. When Wes was making the film, The Fantastic Mr. Fox, he chose to have the actors and actresses all record every line of their dialogue outside of a studio on location. His idea was that it would increase the naturalness. Wes goes on to say, we went out in a forest, went out in an attic, went out in a stable, and we went underground for some things. There was a great spontaneity in the recordings because of that.
Interesting.
I like to think that one shot where they have like the fallout bunker underground, they did in a real life fallout bunker underground.
I could see how that could add to the humor of the moment. I mean, this is a movie that I think lends itself to that kind of creativity.
Indeed. All of his movies, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be inside a studio, with no other actors recording your lines. That wouldn't be a Wes Anderson style of doing it. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's true. So much is about the rapport of talking to somebody face to face, Rye.
Just like we are here, Matt.
Yep. It all came full circle.
And we actually can turn. All I have to do is turn a little to the left, and I see our guest. Like I say, he has been on Cinemajaw several times. He has a block party coming out, part of the IFA. It's on October 23rd. John Otterbacher, welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Good to see you guys, man. It feels like it's been a long time. I think maybe it actually has been a long time.
It has.
Has it been over a year?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because last time was at Cards Against Humanity, right?
And it was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I remember going to Cards Against Humanity and for some like testing of something, some game. And we were like, is it cool to eat pizza? Is it cool to have drinks? Like people were just starting to talk about COVID, and within like a week, we were shut down.
That's right, dude. Yeah.
It's crazy.
You were in the like last batch of in-person guests before we went to Zoom.
I think so. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this block party that's coming up, part of IFA.
Well, IFA Chicago is a not-for-profit supporting and celebrating independent filmmakers in Chicago and the Chicagoland area. And the block party is a big fundraiser for the organization. This is an organization that's trying to support local filmmakers, trying to offer events and opportunities for screenings and, workshops with different industry experts. And that takes money. So what they're doing is they've got a silent auction that's happening right now. And you can get words of advice or days shooting at CineSpace from all these industry experts. Really cool thing happening right now, all the way up to the October 23rd event, which is at CineSpace. So for people who haven't been to CineSpace before, that's where all the local TV shows, a lot of the movies are made.
Like Chicago Fire and Chicago PD.
Chicago Medical, everything, right?
Everything Chicago in the title, it's there. Plus lots of other stuff too. Empire shot there for years, and yeah, lots of good stuff. It's the heart of the industry in Chicago. Really the people are the heart, but if you were going to take a location, that's the heart of the industry in Chicago. There's going to be food trucks and drinks, and it's going to be a good time.
So if you're in the film industry, you're an independent, this is a great time to come out, network, talk to other people. Great event, because I know we have a lot of filmmakers that listen to the podcast. So this is a perfect opportunity to meet other filmmakers.
Absolutely. A lot of us haven't seen much of each other, as we were just pointing out,
Yeah.
So we're communicating, I'm kind of over the Zoom meeting if I can avoid it, so I'm excited. It's going to be outdoors, and they will be doing tours of the facility. IFA just moved into a new space with Able Cine. So Able Cine does gear support and training, so cameras and lights, and then training for that stuff.
For indie filmmakers, we should point that out again, right?
Independents and professionals. Like if you're buying a red camera, and some lenses, Able Cine would be one of the places you would do that here in Chicago. And so Able Cine is kind of sharing the space with IFA. There's a really high-end theater in there. You can do streaming. It's 4K projection. It's awesome. It's a really cool space. The block party is going to be outside, but if people want to check out the new space, go through, a lot of cool posters and stuff in there, they're welcome to do that.
Awesome. So again, that is happening October 23rd. Mm-hmm. I'm sure if they go to the IFA website, and we can put a link in the show notes.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, ifachicago.org.
Do it, Jawheads. Also, you are a filmmaker yourself. What have you been up to? I know you got projects galore going on, John.
A couple of things I like to juggle a little bit. So I've got a couple of projects that are in pre-production. I can't talk about those, but one that I'm really excited about is called Silt. And this has been a project working with longtime collaborator Emily Upsack out of Colorado. We've been kind of developing this story, it's her story, I will say, but I've been working with her developing it about a younger Native woman. She's a botanist, and she's retracing this trip that she took with her aunt along the Colorado River, which, spoiler alert, does not make it to the Gulf of Mexico anymore. Or the Gulf of California. Anyways, one of the Gulfs down there, the Colorado River doesn't make it anymore because they use up all the water. So in the Southwest and in the South in general, water use is a big deal. We don't deal with it here in the Midwest because we've got the Great Lakes and lots of precipitation. But it's a fictional film, and we shot it almost entirely in New Mexico with our actors. But the director and I went down earlier, and we did a road trip from New Mexico through Arizona and down into Mexico to take that trip that the aunt and her niece take. And we shot that all kind of doc style. And then we brought our crew to New Mexico. It was awesome.
That sounds pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Sounds like an adventure.
Shooting in the West. I don't know if you guys have heard of Gallup, New Mexico before.
I have not.
No?
I got some family in Albuquerque.
So it's not far from Albuquerque. Albuquerque is a great place, really cool place to skateboard. topic. But Gallup is kind of famous in the film world because tons and tons of Westerns were shot out there back in the 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. And so we stayed at this hotel called the El Rancho, and it's just like filled with film memorabilia. The place is a trip. I mean, I want to make a movie there, first of all. I'm just going on the record saying that. Going to go back there and make a movie. But it's just like, yeah, it's something that fell out of a different era in time, you know, and all the walls are covered with photos of like famous, you know, golden age stars and starlets, all signed. They were all there. They all stayed at the El Rancho. So we stayed there. Our cast and crew stayed there while we shot around town. Yeah, wonderful space, really interesting. Had a blast, you know.
You're also you're a polymath, as we mentioned earlier. You're starting a podcast too.
Oh, I am. What's a polymath?
A polymath is somebody who does a lot of different things.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm starting a podcast too. I mean, speaking of skateboarding, Matt might know this, but I've been skateboarding a lot. I think a lot of people have during the pandemic. It was something I did a lot as a child, got my daughter into it. And as I got interested in skateboarding again, I started revisiting all these skateboarding movies. You know, we were talking about that the other day,
the old
Matt.
Powell Peralta stuff.
Yeah, man. Well,
Search for Animal Chin.
Exactly. The skateboard like videos, like the skate vids, which are mainly skaters, and then the movies that were around the skateboarding culture. So like Gleaming the Cube, Thrashin'. I mean, there's just a bunch. And then there's more modern films like, documentaries, Bing Lou's Minding the Gap. So there's all this whole breadth of like skateboarding movies. So yeah, I think we're going to do a little podcast, and I'm going to talk to different people, not just in the film world, but in the skateboarding world, about those movies that were, kind of important to them as they were growing up. So we're going to focus on a different movie each podcast, as well as some skate vids and other stuff. So we're going to give it a shot. The Maximum Otter Podcast. That's our little skate brand, if you will. You can find us on Instagram, Maximum Otter LTD, and the podcast is just going to be Maximum Otter. And we're going to do skate movies until we run out of that, and then we'll switch it up and we'll do something else we like.
I like it. While we're talking skate movies, what'd you think of Jonah Hill's directorial debut? It was what was the name of it now?
Mid-90s.
Mid-90s, yes. Did you like this one?
I love this movie. It was very nostalgic for me. You know, so I was born in 76. So I was at my troublemaking peak in the mid-90s.
Same.
Yeah, like right there. So, it was very nostalgic. There were characters in there. It's like, oh my gosh, I know these kids, you know, and Minding the Gap, for what it's worth, was also like that, where I just knew, I don't know those kids.
I lived in that house, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And both those movies, Minding the Gap's a different era, but the mid-90s was the era. And the music, the soundtrack, the hip-hop soundtrack, and the slang that was used, the clothing. And two really recent documentaries just came out celebrating kids, which is another film from that era.
Harmony Korine's.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then there's two documentaries, one of them called All the Streets Are Silent, which is about hip hop and skateboarding in New York. So it's not really about kids. And then the other one is called The Kids, and it's about the making of the movie Kids. So I'm excited to see those. There's just like a lot of skateboard history and lore and nostalgia. And yeah, I love it. You know, I'm a big fan. You know what I mean? Like it just like, I feel it. I get excited about it. I feel younger. You know, there's some saying about like, you never get too old to skateboard. You quit skateboarding and then you get old or something like that. I'm sure I murdered that
now
quote.
Not to get into the weeds on skating, but like it was such a crazy year. It was in the Olympics too. And that was huge. I never thought I'd live to see that, you know?
Yeah, it was weird. Did you watch it?
I did. I didn't like it. I'm going to be honest with you. It was really boring. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I enjoyed like the talk around it, and I enjoyed like watching it with my daughter just because it was like a sport that we could both watch together.
They overcomplicated it.
It's weird. I thought some of the rules were kind of strange, and also like that's not what skateboarding is to me. Like skateboarding is an aesthetic. Skateboarding is a lifestyle. Skateboarding is art, you know?
Right.
It's culture.
Right.
And that was like, you know, skateboarders in goofy outfits doing this like the hardest thing to do is ride around the course and do trick after trick in a row. And that was like not important at all in the scoring. Like the best trick was what was important. And I just thought that didn't make any sense to me. So, anyways,
Yeah,
we don't
very into the
want to turn
weeds.
this into a skateboarding podcast. Maximum Otter, come check it out.
It is funny because a friend of mine actually showed me a picture of a skateboard that was Kill Bill style today, and he was showing me, and I was like, well, I would never hang a skateboard on my wall. That's not my style. But here we are in John's studio, and if I'm looking a little to the right, I see a skateboard on the wall.
Yeah.
And
that's
that
the
is-
Orange Chair.
That is the Orange Chair Productions.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I got to give a shout out to my buddy Josh Sathry. He worked with me in Orange Chair Productions, my production company, very early on. He's out in LA now doing big stuff, movies going to Sundance with the company he's with. He gave that to me one year as a present. A friend of his painted that. And I had more skateboards in here, but I took them out and they're over at my house so I can stare at them more often.
If I've already asked you this question, then I apologize. But maybe for listeners who haven't heard your previous episodes, what's the story behind the Orange Chair?
Yeah, I mean, you may have asked me before. I don't know.
Okay,
but
we both forget. Good.
But that's all right. Yeah, I mean, it's not a complicated story. There was this orange chair that my folks had, and it was always around my whole life. Like,
do you still have it?
I do.
Wow.
It's in my other little studio space. Next time you guys are over, I'll pull it out and
I would
dust
love to
it
see
off.
the Orange Chair. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it was somebody gave it to them or something when, before I was born. It was there. It was in the house when I grew up. When I got my own place, they were like, here, take some of this furniture. One of those pieces was the orange chair. And it just came to, symbolize like a safe and comfortable place to be yourself and be creative. And I started having these early film meetings and, I'd be sitting in this orange chair and it was just there. And so we were looking for, a name, a brand, if you will. Mm-hmm. And Orange Chair was just seemed obvious. It looks cool. And as I tell my students, like film company is noun plus descriptor or adjective of noun. Black cat, orange chair,
bad robot,
yellow car, bad robot. I mean, look at the production company names out there. They're all like noun and adjective. So Maximum Otter, not a production company, but still.
Yeah.
I
Nice.
like it.
Yeah.
Again, for the jawheads that want to check out your podcast, the name one more time.
Maximum Otter.
like
Right now we're just on Instagram, so that will be expanding soon, but Maximum Otter LTD. There's not a lot of Maximum Otters out there. You'll find us.
We'll link the Instagram in the show notes.
Cool.
It is Wes Anderson month here on Cinemajaw. If you were going to a deserted island and you could only take one Wes Anderson film with you, which one do you take with you to watch for the rest of your time?
Are you asking me?
I am asking you, John.
Man, this is a tough question. You're really putting me on the spot here, man. I love so many Wes Anderson. Like, I'm a big fan of Bottle Rocket, which I just saw as playing, I think, at the Doc Center this week. And I was like, I kind of want to go down and watch Bottle Rocket in 35 millimeter. This is tough, man. I mean, I'd probably go with Rushmore, because that was the film that introduced me to him.
Absolutely.
Great performances, I mean, the whole like nice nurses outfit.
Yeah.
That was our clip last week. Yeah.
Oh, are they? Yeah, just like, I mean, it's just classic shit. Bill Murray. I mean,
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah. It's though you see when Wes Anderson, he makes so many good ones that it makes it a tough decision. I always say my favorite Wes Anderson movie is the last one that I watched, because if I watch Rushmore, I love it. But if
It's
I
not
watch,
true. You would take the Life Aquatic with you
no,
to
I
the desert
wouldn't.
island.
I wouldn't.
So
I
what are you
wouldn't.
taking
I
then?
would actually probably take the Grand Budapest Hotel. I love that movie.
Okay.
So
my second might have been I was leaning towards Royal Tenenbaums. I love Royal Tenen. I like the early stuff. There's a couple of Wes Anderson movies that are like,
yeah, the Darjeeling Limited. Yeah.
I'm not a huge Isle of Dogs fan either. It was, it was just okay. I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox, yes,
is great.
Right.
Isle of Dogs,
Yeah,
it's all right.
Fantastic Mr. Fox is amazing. I've actually, one of these days I got some amazing Fantastic Mr. Fox posters. They're just like
Oh, sweet.
gorgeous. Oh, yeah. Anyways.
Love it. All right. Well, John is sitting in on this entire jaw. He has his top 5 scariest movies of the 70s. Get thinking of that, jawheads. Before we get there, though, we got a review, Matt K. Get this. Back in 1997, 2 young rising stars, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck won the coveted Oscar for Best Original Screenplay for their Good Will Hunting script. With that kind of success, Matt, you would think the two would be busy writing all kinds of screenplays for Hollywood. You would be wrong. They actually never wrote another screenplay together until now. The two of them, along with Nicole Holofcener, have adopted The Last Duel for the big screen. To add to the excitement, the cast also includes Adam Driver, and the film is directed by the great Ridley Scott.
Damn.
I hopped on my horse and galloped to the theater to check it out.
My father told me my life would be blessed with good fortune. I'm married. I was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
Big spoiler here to start out, Matt. The movie ends in a duel.
Wow.
Before we get there, let's get back to the start here. The interesting thing about making this film is that the three screenwriters wrote a perspective on one of the three main characters each. The film is then broken into 3 chapters showing the separate points of view. Set in late 1300s France, Matt Damon plays Jean, a knight who is very courageous in battle, but absent-minded when it comes to his finances and his stature within the high court. He is a brute. Adam Driver plays Jacques, a squire who is initially friends with Damon's character, but moves up in status and betrays his trust. Jodie Comer plays Marguerite, Damon's wife in the movie. Now, she accuses Jacques of raping her while her husband was away in Paris. Jean takes this to the King of France and is granted a judicial duel to the death against Jacques. I should note, this is based on a true story. And in fact, this duel between the two men that took place in Paris in 1386 was the last judicial duel to ever take place in the country. Even at the time, these duels were not common. It had been years since one had taken place. So the last duel drew much attention from everyone in France, including the king who was on hand to watch it. The film is most interested in exploring the double standard between men and women that we unfortunately still see today. Lying about rape meant a woman would be burned alive at the stake, yet men were openly cheating on their wives with numerous women as depicted in the film. We also see how ludicrous the laws were at the time. The rape charge was not considered a crime against Marguerite, but rather against her husband, Jean, for violating his wife. Ridley Scott knows authenticity sells a movie like this, and everything from the armor to the location looks very genuine and believable. We even get to see Notre Dame being completed in the background in a few scenes. All of it leads up to a very exciting duel. And this, Matt, it actually feels like I was watching a live sporting event or a MMA fight. I was not sure who was going to win. Clocking in at 2.5 hours, the last duel is on the long side, but I enjoyed my time spent in this world. I must note, Ben Affleck does have a small role here and gets to add a little needed humor to this dark tale. I was along for the ride. This is a strong recommend from me.
So is Damon believable as a knight of old?
He really is. And even not only just the knight factor, but the brute, right? This brooding character that I didn't think he had it in him.
We saw him in Stillwater.
Until Stillwater.
Yeah.
And we both commented how shocked we were that he could play this kind of character that was much more quieter and reserved and looked like he could really
kick some ass,
right?
Maybe he's hit a new phase of his career or something, you know?
Huh. Did they use some like trickery? Matt Damon's not a very big guy.
He's bulked up.
He has,
but he's not. I mean, Adam Driver is a big dude.
Adam Driver's a big dude.
He's tall, right?
He's a really tall and muscular guy. And Matt Damon's a muscular guy, but did they look like Adam Driver was huge?
It didn't. It looked like when these two really face off, it looks like you could flip a coin on who was going to win. You could see where, like, if you were really sizing him up, you'd probably say like Adam Driver's got, a little length in his arms. He might be able
to Damon a little bit.
Yeah, but I think
Damon's not a slight guy though. He's not small.
Nah.
Is he short? Can we throw that in the jaw box? How tall is Matt Damon?
How tall is Matt Damon?
And how tall is Adam Driver? What's the height difference between these two? I'd like to know in real life.
Yeah, I just, in my mind, like Adam Driver is a foot taller than him.
Yeah, but it's very believable, and they put this like really gruesome looking scar on Matt Damon's face.
That looked cool in the
previews.
previews.
It really looks good, and you believe he's just the kind of guy, especially his character early on in the film when they're showing these battle scenes when they're going around France and defending the kingdom. He's the first one in battle. He's the first one to go across the river to attack, and I think that helps sell the idea that Adam Driver's he's a badass, and Adam Driver's character necessarily wasn't. So when it gets
pretty boy.
Yeah, so when it gets to the duel, it's like, well, you could see this going either way, and it's pretty damn exciting.
That's pretty cool. So how was the actual, well, I don't know if this is too much of a spoilerish question, but how was the actual fight at the end?
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's worth it?
Oh, it really is.
Because they got it better be if the whole movie is called The Last Duel.
Yeah, and it opens up. I mean, the movie opens up with them dressing for the last duel, and then sort of like the start of them on the horses, and then right when they sort of clash, you go back in time, so that sort of sets the stage.
Sure.
Then it leads up back to this moment again. And
how long is the fight scene?
About 25 minutes, I would say.
Wow, I mean, that's
25 minutes.
That's not a short scene.
It's a very exciting duel for sure. I mean, it starts on horses.
It better be exciting for 25 minutes.
Put it this way, I read a lot about the duel today because it's one of those movies that once I knew this was based on a true story, I started like digging around on the internet and reading about exactly what would go down because there were certain rules to the duel. So you'd be on horseback with the lances, but you would also be given an axe and a long knife. So once you came off the horses, you would be down to these armed.
From lances to axes and knives?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty rad.
And
I haven't seen that in
they
movie.
both do come off the horses, and it comes down to like hand-to-hand combat. And it's just great. I mean, there were so many people. This was like the event in France in 1386.
Right, so
this was
spectators.
This was like the main event, It's awesome.
How about this compared to Gladiator?
Well,
I mean,
it's not as flashy, and obviously Ridley Scott directed Gladiator too. This one's grittier. The movie in general, I think the battle scenes, they use a lot of like.
It's also been 20 years. Styles have changed.
Right. He uses a lot of like handheld camera and right into the action. So it's right in your face, kind of bloody and gory and gritty. I loved it. Recommend this one.
Cool.
And the screenwriting with the collaboration here?
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? You could have went over the top with the differences between the points of view of the three characters. They do overlap the storylines on a couple. For instance, no spoiler here, early on in the storyline, Matt Damon saves Adam Driver's life. So we see from Matt Damon's perspective. When we flip to Adam Driver's perspective, that isn't such a big deal. It doesn't really happen like he saved his life, So there's like these
that's cool.
Right. There's these like slight interpretations of each character has leading up to even the rape. So from the point of view of Adam Driver to
the point of view of Marguerite
everybody. So it's done really well.
Wow.
Cool.
Yep. The only downside I would say, I wasn't as emotionally invested as, say, like Gladiator. I know it's moved me to tears at the end, or a Braveheart back in the day. I remember being like, wow, tear rolling down the cheek.
It's kind of a style back then, like
it was.
Are you not entertained? Like there's that moment where you're just like, no, and of course the characters don't do well at the end. Yeah.
But yeah, I could have used a little bit more like emotional feeling at the end. I was into the duel, don't get me wrong, but I would have liked to,
They went a little Star Wars on it?
Feel a little tears or something,
Yeah. So how about a movie poster quote?
Movie poster quote, I went, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves.
Sounds dirty.
I think I've heard that line before. Is there a jaw-dropping moment here?
I would go with the opening moments of the duel. There's no doubt it leads to a very exciting moment. It was like edge of your seat. And
do we get some Monty Python, like somebody loses a limb and like the blood just...
It's only a flesh wound.
Any of that?
Don't want to give away.
All right.
It's exciting stuff.
That would be great.
Three solid Jaws.
Okay.
3 solid Jaws for The Last Duel. It comes out October 15th in theaters. Do check it out, Jawheads. If you see it, when you see it, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw. Let us know what you think. Or you can always write us an email. feedback@cinemajaw.com. All right, we like to celebrate horror every October here on Cinemajaw. We're doing 70s, 80s, 90s, consecutive weeks. John, you drew the 70s card. You're our guest. Did you have tough time coming up with this? Was this easy to narrow down? Where do you sit on 70s horror?
Well, the 70s is a great era in cinema. I mean, I'll just say that. It's an era of revolution in cinema, you know, like the whole 70s is just about revolution. It's great. I taught a class about it years ago and really enjoyed that class. So I think it's a good decade for horror, but when I was digging into it, I have to say I think it's just my age. 80s horror is what I know.
Hell yeah.
That's the stuff I grew up on. And then like the 90s stuff and, you know, kind of playing off of the 80s.
It was a continuation.
It was riffing on it. And I feel like there's not necessarily that continuation from the 70s to the 80s, except a couple of examples I was actually kind of surprised were 70s movies. So it wasn't hard. The hardest thing is narrowing it down, you know, because I got a weird taste in movies, so I think my stuff is going to be different than Matt's. I bet there'll be at least 1 or 2 overlaps, but there's some stuff that I like just because I like weird stuff. I
got a couple of wild cards.
I
tried
to
list.
dig deep, yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't know the 70s horror like I know the 80s and 90s horror for sure, right? It's a little bit older for me. I had to dig around a little bit, but you're getting us started this week. What do you got sitting at number 5, John?
I got more than 5 on my list because if I start overlapping, then I got to start cutting stuff. Right.
And we'll do honorable mentions at the end. So what do you got at 5?
All right. So I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but you just got to throw it out there for Argento. Suspiria, I think, is a classic, you know, Giallo film, the Goblin soundtrack. I mean, it's weird. You know, and I'm actually a bigger fan of some other Argento films, but Suspiria is awesome.
Have you seen the remake Suspiria?
No.
It's really good. It's different.
Okay.
It doesn't try to replicate the 70s Suspiria.
Yeah, I've heard mixed stuff. You liked it too? All right, I'll check it out. I think you can watch it for free on Amazon right now.
We could throw that in the fish tank. Is that one streaming? There's one scene in particular, and I've only seen the remake, but there's one scene where this contortion happens with a dancer in another room. It's brutal. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross.
And Tom York of Radiohead did the score for the new one, for the remake.
I could see him doing riffing off the Goblin soundtrack. Because you guys heard that soundtrack? It is weird.
Really weird.
Super weird.
I haven't heard it.
Like techno, but rock.
I mean, I've certainly heard Goblin music before.
Matt, Suspiria, good pick to get us started. What do you got sitting at 5?
All right. I've got a movie from 1977 that I guarantee nobody here on this panel has seen.
Well, I know Star Wars came out that year.
Yes, but what was William Shatner doing in 1977? That is the question, right? He was not on the Starship Enterprise. He was in a small town in Arizona defending the local townsfolk from giant spiders in Kingdom of the Spiders. If you guys, this movie is like Hitchcock's Birds.
Stop it.
But with spiders. It's great. It's really scary. Okay. It's a scary freaking movie. First of all, I don't know if you guys suffer from arachnophobia at all.
I do not.
No?
Well, right? I don't like spiders, that's for sure.
Okay. It gets you. It is like the movie Arachnophobia. I kept waiting to be scared. I'm like, this isn't scary. I get it. It was a comedy. This movie is the arachnophobia we didn't get in the 80s or 90s or whatever the, Arachnophobia movie came out. It is a truly scary spider movie that preys on those fears. It gets under your skin with all the scuttling and the little camera shots. It's like Halloween, but instead of Michael Myers, it's spiders. It's freaking good.
High praise.
Don't sleep on this one.
High praise. It's like Halloween.
It's like Halloween.
But with William Shatner and spiders.
Well, William Shatner is kind of in Halloween, too.
What does that mean?
Well,
Matt?
I guess what I meant by that is
it's
the
like
cameras.
Halloween.
Okay,
but
you
with
know how
spiders and Bill Shatner.
You know how he uses the camera, John Carpenter uses the camera from the killer's point of view, and you get all these weird angles and stuff. There's a lot of that with the spiders.
The spider
in
cam?
Kingdom. Yeah. I don't know if there's exactly a spider cam, but there's very strange angles from like the corners of the rooms and stuff.
Yeah, that's where spiders
And then
hang out.
The final shot is so apocalyptic. I don't even want to spoil it. It's something like worth checking out, even if you just go to YouTube and watch the end of this movie.
All right.
Maybe it's because William Shatner's in the news. He's going to space. Did you hear this?
I didn't.
Yeah. He's going on the second Blue Origin Bezos's company.
It's what old people with money do these days.
He's
Is they
going to
go to
space.
go to space.
Yeah, but he
Old
deserves
white
it.
rich
I mean,
men
it's
and
Captain
penis
Kirk.
ships.
He
They
wa-
fly to space.
He wanted to get away from George Takei and the spiders, you know?
Yep, there you go.
I love George Takei.
Oh, I love him too. Yeah. All right. Swings it over to my number 5. This is a heavy hitter. Sorry, guys, if I'm stealing a higher up one on yours. 1979. Squeeze this one in right before the end of the decade. I'm going with Phantasm.
I love Phantasm, dude.
You guys are fans?
Oh,
am.
yeah, totally.
I actually thought Phantasm was an 80s movie.
So did
I was
I.
going through 70s movies and I was like, Phantasm? Really? And it's on my like extended list. It's cool, man. It's that shiny ball that stabs everybody in the head, and it had the ball cam. Like they mounted that spinning ball to the camera and flew, like the camera would fly around and you'd see the ball's perspective.
I think part of the scare here is that they don't really explain the flying balls all that well, right? It's just part of what's going on. And the
Boy,
creepy
it's been a while.
mortician guy who's just known as the tall man, and he's this very tall, lengthy man that's got like a bald head and weird haircut, and he's just flat out weird looking.
Sort of the master of the balls.
He is 100%. Yeah,
He's the ball master.
Flying ball master.
it's streaming on Amazon. Phantasm. If you haven't seen it, not all that long of a movie either. It's a good Halloween watch for sure.
And there's a slew of sequels. I think that's what you're thinking of, John, from the 80s.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them are kind of schlocky, but the first one's it's good.
I like the first Phantasm on my list. Into our 4 as we go, John. What do you got?
All right, so this might be a little. Well, I'll just throw it out there. Wicker Man, 1973.
Oh, yeah. This is on my list. Good
Is
pick.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the 90s remake with the Nicolas Cage?
No, the bees. Isn't that the thing? Like the bees are getting him or
I think
something,
so,
stinging him. Yeah. I'd never seen this one, and I was actually, I won't lie, I watched it last night. I was digging through 70s movies, preparing for the show, and I was like, oh, Wicker Man. I've always meant to watch that. I did not know it was going to be like some sort of like psychosexual jaunt through Scotland. It was very, very weird, and I was like, oh, so this is where Midsommar came from.
Yes.
I mean, that is Midsommar. I mean,
Yeah.
Midsommar is riffs so hard on that, but nobody was talking about Wicker Man when Midsommar came out.
They were.
Were they?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I saw a lot of that, actually.
Okay.
It's basically, especially from critics that didn't like Midsommar. They were just saying, how Ari Aster is basically remaking Wicker Man. I think there's enough differences.
Oh, for sure. There's enough differences. Midsommar is its own thing, but it's playing hard off that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like the movie is filled with gore. It's like Midsommar. You've got a movie that takes place predominantly during the day. It's bright, it's colorful, and it's just a bunch of people acting slightly off and not like something's going on, but they're not being, upfront about it. Midsommar is, in many ways a much more interesting film, but Wicker Man was fun. I was like, I got to throw this on the list, man. This surprised me.
Big fan of this one. And for the jawheads who haven't seen it, I think another element there is that it's on an island. So it's not like it's easy to escape. And I think that element of being somewhere where everybody else is into this cult, that you're an outsider is just
and
not good.
Yeah,
No, it's never good.
Bad things are going to happen. There's no communication back then, right? So it's not like he can't just jump on his cell phone or whatever. And, pretty good performance by Christopher Lee early on. I mean, Christopher Lee's always kind of cool, but this was a weird role even for him, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. A lot of, again, if you're not into like strange dancing and like 70s nudity dancing, this is not your I'm just saying, if you're not into that, this is not your movie, because there's a lot of it shocking. Like, really? This is just going to happen the whole movie? Yep, apparently so.
And another beauty, an hour and 24 minutes, The Wicker Man. It gets it done. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like Midsommar. Holy moly. All right, swinging over to me. Honestly, I'm calling an audible. At number 4, I had Dawn of the Dead, but we decided we were going to dig deeper and not put the Halloweens and Exorcists of the world on this list. So I'm disqualifying Dawn of the Dead, and I'm going to throw in the Amityville Horror.
Oh my God. He steals another one from me. Go ahead.
Wow.
Okay, this is why, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal. It is one of the scariest movies I ever saw. I saw this movie way too young. I might have been like 9 or 10 years old the first time I saw the Amityville Horror, and it scared the shit out of me. Guys, I lived in New England, not too far from the real Amityville house, and I remember my dad one day was like, hey, you want to see? Look, there's the Amityville house.
Oh, he took you there?
Yes!
So you're scarred, huh?
Scarred, and I saw the windows with that really did. It looked just like that, you know? Holy crap. So I really thought like the walls were going to start bleeding any second because I lived in the same community or close by enough that it seemed plausible. Movie scared the crap out of me.
Same here. I'm going to talk about it again when we get
right.
there.
All
I'm embarrassed to say I've never seen it.
It's a good one, man.
I will say so.
You know the imagery of it. It's iconic. This house and stuff. Like I know it, but I don't know it. You know?
I'll talk about it again, but doing the research, I noticed it only has a 30% score on Rotten Tomatoes. And
That's
I thought,
bizarre.
I don't know how, because I agree it's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. But we'll get there. My number 4, B-movie galore here. But I rewatched it last night. Like John, I got into the 70s mood of doing some research. I'm like, God, I haven't seen that. I remember it scaring the hell out of me. Really shaped a lot of stories I have in my childhood too from this movie. 1978. So Jaws comes out in 75. There's a lot of
75. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of everybody's trying to remake Jaws, put their spin on it.
Yeah. Piranha.
And that's my number
Really?
4.
Wow. Holy crap.
1978 Piranha. Yes.
Piranha is pretty gross.
So it borrows heavily off of Jaws. The
Oh, yeah.
opening scene is a couple that go skinny dipping in like a pool, but this pool has these piranhas that they don't know about that are in there, very much like the opening of Jaws. And not only that, you get the underwater camera. This was the scare then, but it's able to go a little bit gorier than Jaws.
Oh, yeah.
So these piranhas, the other thing I should note, I grew up in Illinois. I saw the ocean for the first time when I went to Disney World when I was in 3rd grade. Then I didn't see the ocean again until I was in college because I'm a Midwestern guy. So sharks never really scared me that much, but the piranhas, fresh water and the way they sell it.
There's no piranhas in Lake Michigan.
I know, but they sell it in the movie. That's the whole point, is that they made these piranhas to actually be a military weapon. They were going to put these in the river and they were going to go after the Viet Cong. And now they have these piranhas and they get loose in a river here in the United States and they go right to a kids camp and
Sure.
All hell breaks loose.
Right.
But they
Let's find some teenagers.
They literally do attack a lot of kids in the water. You see blood. You actually see a piranha jump out of the water and bite a guy's face. It's kind of laughable by today's standards, but it is scary. I'll say this.
It scared me back in the day.
We watched this. I have an older brother. He ended up buying piranhas for
pets?
For pets. That was his pet. And he would have piranhas and he would feed them goldfish. That was his thing.
They're not nearly as vicious as the movie makes them out to be.
They would definitely kill.
But if you stick your hand in the tank,
Well,
you're not going to come up with bones.
So my story is I had a hamster. That was my pet. And my hamster, the cage was the shelf above the piranha.
I don't like where this is
aquarium.
going. This is not great.
And you
Poor
remember,
Hammy.
you remember we had the hamster ball, you
Oh,
put
no.
the hamster ball in. Well, we took the hamster out. It was going around the living room and my dad was in charge. He had a few beers in him and my dad was in charge. He got the hamster out of the hamster ball. And as he's putting it back into the cage, it comes out of his hand and goes right into the aquarium with the piranhas. He got it out. He
Oh,
didn't get bits. The hamster survived, but it scarred me for life. I pissed my pants like you wouldn't believe. Screaming screaming. I was so upset. My
I
hamster.
can tell you're still scarred to
This
this
is
day.
like this should be in a movie. Like, oh, ha, ha, let's play with the hamster over the top of the piranha. Oh no! The hamster jumps in the water.
This explains a lot about Rye the movie
Oh,
guy.
it was terrifying. But Piranha, can we throw this in the fish tank? Phil, if you have enough hours in the day, how many Piranha movies are there? There were remakes, Piranha 3D, Piranha. See how many Piranha movies there are. It spawned a humongous franchise you might not be aware of.
There's a bunch.
Yeah. All right, into our threes, John.
This is hard. I'm with Matt right now. I'm like moving stuff around on here because I don't want to pull something. I mean, look, we've already talked about Ridley Scott a bunch. I gotta throw Alien out there. I mean, we're talking about Jaws. We're talking about Piranha. I mean, you guys know the like high concept for Alien is Jaws in space.
Right.
That's how this movie gets made. You know, they're like Jaws is this huge success.
That's all you need to say. Jaws in space.
Jaws in space.
Sold.
You get it.
Yep.
You get it. I mean, it's a classic, and it's what I love about it, and what I love about Jaws and Piranha. I don't remember as much, but even Alligator. You guys see Alligator?
Oh, yeah.
That's 1980, so I couldn't pull that one. Robert Forster, but you don't see the thing that's getting people right. Like you hear it. Like the soundtrack is so amazing in Jaws too, right? Like, dun dun dun. You hear the music. You know it's there. You know it's getting people, but you don't see it. Alien is the same way. Alien flipped
Until you do see it.
Alien flipped me the fuck out. Like, and I saw Aliens in the theater as a kid, and I had
totally different movie.
Totally different movie, but I had nightmares about both of them.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
It scarred me. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, amazing performance. It's dark. It you know, everybody's like, it's a science fiction movie. Well, yeah, it's a science fiction movie,
horror.
but it's a psychological horror. It's a thriller. You know, you're just waiting for these people to get got. I don't know. I loved it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and everything about it too. It's like H.R. Geiger's design, you know, like the face hugger, the xenomorph, like the whole like life cycle of the alien is disgusting.
Infinitely rewatchable too. You can just watch
agreed.
this movie over and over. I've revisited it a number of times. It's still scary.
Can I blaspheme right now? I prefer Aliens to Alien.
Aliens, I will say Aliens is cooler.
It's just a lot more fun to sit down and watch on a Saturday. You know
Yeah,
what
there's
I mean?
a lot. Well, yeah, but you know, there's a lot more gunplay, and there's ships, and there's just a
Right.
lot. Like, you know, Aliens is more fun for sure. Alien is scarier.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. I'll agree with that. All right, swinging it over to me. The movie that taught me the word paranoia, and to this day, the image of Donald Sutherland cannot be removed from my mind, where he's just standing there with that blank look pointing at the camera. Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Good.
Freaked me the hell out. This movie legitimately made me wonder if my parents were pod people. You remember when you were a little kid and your parents made you go to bed early and you were not tired? You know, maybe it was just getting dark because it's summertime and it stays light till like 10 o'clock.
I just did that with my kid, right?
Right. It sucks as a kid. And you can hear your parents downstairs with your grandparents playing pinochle. You hear them from your room and they're laughing. You can't quite make out the words. And then you start to wonder, are they speaking a different language? Are they freaking robots down there? Are they pod people? I saw Invasion of the Body Snatchers again. I think like 10 years old, man. Maybe we got HBO that year or something. I don't know what it is, but this movie came to me way too young, scared the bejeebus out of me, man. To this day, seriously scarred by the movie. The remake's totally inferior. You got to go with the original. Jeff Goldblum, Donald Sutherland. It's an absolute gem.
There's no doubt. Also on my list, truth be told. So my top three have all been mentioned
Jesus.
here. My number 3 is technically The Wicker Man. I'm going to sub one in here that I caught up with earlier this year when we were celebrating Jodie Foster month at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And that is 1976, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane.
Yeah.
And I
You
talked
told me about
it,
this, yeah.
a little bit on Cinemajaw before. This is Jodie Foster. She's a child actress at this time. Martin Sheen is like in his early 20s and plays a creep who is making sexual advances. This movie would never be made today.
Wow.
And he's making sexual advances towards Jodie Foster's character. And we never see Foster's parents at home. People are coming to the house and she's constantly saying that her father's busy working. and she has a secret of her own. She never wants to open up this cellar in her house, and it's creepy on two fronts. A, you got this whole sexual vibe of an older man coming on to a younger girl. There's actual nudity of Jodie Foster, which I come to find out was a stunt double. It was Jodie Foster's older sister who was allowed to do nudity. But the idea is that you're supposed to be seeing a younger girl nude in the movie. It's very strange. It's just bizarre. And on top of that, you have Jodie Foster's character with this dark secret that I don't want to reveal in case people go out and watch this movie.
The victim becomes the aggressor at some point, which was a theme in a lot of the 70s movies.
It was, yep. It's a very bizarre movie. It's not for everybody. The little girl who lives down the lane.
What year is that?
1976.
What's the Malick movie where Martin Sheen is like...
Oh, no. Another one?
Terrence Malick in the 70s?
Might have been, maybe not 70s, but maybe early 80s.
Early 80s. What was that? What's the movie?
I'm not positive. We can throw it in the fish tank.
Antichrist. That was in the 90s,
let's throw it in
right?
the fish tank. It's Martin Sheen, and he's like an outlaw on the run. It's really early Malick, so maybe it is 80s. Maybe it's not 70s.
That's not ringing a bell.
John, what is it?
Badlands. It is Martin Sheen in Badlands. You're right.
It is. It's not Jodie Foster, but it's another young woman who's like underage or very close to.
I've never seen Badlands. It's on my list to watch. I got to check that out.
Got to check it out.
Yeah. All right. That was my number 3. Into our 2s we go. John, what do we got sitting there?
Creepy. Gosh. I don't have anything like that. No. All right, so this is just because I'm biased and I'm a bit of a Herzog nerd, so I got to go with Nosferatu the Vampire.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have not seen this. Anytime
you get Herzog and Klaus Kinski together, there's just this weird tension, I mean, this famous director and his muse, this actor, Klaus Kinski. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's a documentary called My Best Fiend. And Klaus Kinski's just this madman, and Herzog is trying to corral him. And so he's, I guess, I don't know if they would have called him method back then.
Did Herzog make the documentary?
Yeah, he made the documentary about his relation. Oh yeah, he made all of his movies are basically about him. So Nosferatu the Vampire might as well be about Herzog the Vampire. It's just weird, and it's riffing on early Herzog movie, or early Nosferatu, which is like a 20s.
Yeah, it's a silent film.
Yeah, silent film. I think it was German. What's that film movement? Gosh, I'm a film instructor. You would think I would know. German. No, it's Italian neorealism. It's German. Anyways, doesn't matter. Nosferatu. The 70s Nosferatu is weird and kind of great. In my opinion. So check it out if you haven't seen it. Every Herzog movie is interesting. It's like Soderbergh. Like, all of his movies are interesting. You may not like all of them, but they're all interesting. Smart guy.
He rarely lets me down. I could just listen to him talk for like forever.
Yeah.
I love his voice.
His documentaries are all that. It's just like him. I'm going to tell you what I think about Antarctica. And here we are in Antarctica. Yeah, he's just like, for 2 hours. You're like, yeah, I love it.
He's the best.
Sorry.
All right. Well, speaking of the victim becoming the aggressor, my number 2 is The Last House on the Left, which is the directorial debut of one of the titans of horror cinema, Wes Craven. And this movie is freaking brutal. Another one that just would not fly today. It's sort of in the same vein as I Spit on Your Grave, which could easily be on this list. It's an honorable mention of mine. It's about a gang of bikers who brutally attack these 2 teenage girls, basically murder them, sexually assault them, and it's horrible. Then they go to the house of one of the parents, and the tables get turned. And how the tables get turned exactly is systematic and brutal. And Wes just pulls no punches. Like, everything is kind of on screen. There's blood, there's screaming, there's dismemberment, literally. And it's a horror show. It's in its brutality. It's so straightforward. There's no like build up. There's a killer. They're going to get the teenagers. No, he goes straight into the brutality of the murders and then the revenge at the end. It's just drawn out so long. It's a brutal picture.
I've not seen the original. I saw the remake, which is terrible.
Yeah.
It's not very good. And it was so bad that I remember thinking, like, maybe I shouldn't see the original, but you're selling me here.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not for everyone. There's really no plot. It's just murder, revenge. So if you're into that and you want to see where Wes Craven came from, you should definitely watch this one.
So this is a Wes Craven film?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've heard of it, obviously, and I knew there was a remake. Never saw this. I saw 80s Wes Craven movies, but not 70s. Yeah.
Well, this is his debut. I mean, if you're a completist, then I guess you need to see it.
You gotta go back. Yeah. All right.
My number 2 was The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978, Donald Sutherland. It's the best version, hands down. They've remade this a few times. The last time was actually with Daniel Craig, James Bond, and Nicole Kidman, just called Invasion, maybe about 10 years, 15 years ago. And it was a crapper, just not good. But boy, you go back, you watch that original, not even original. This was a remake itself.
True.
78 was, I think, the best one. I'll sub one in. Is this your number 1?
Better not be.
Texas Chainsaw
yeah,
Massacre.
it's my number
Okay.
one.
I'll leave mine as the Body Snatchers. I'll leave it as the Body Snatchers.
You said you were going to say more about it, didn't you?
No, I'm going to say
that
that
was-
with Amityville.
Oh, Amityville.
Yeah, all I'll say with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers is everything Matt said, plus the Donald Sutherland face at the end, just knocks it up a whole star, right? It's like a 3-star movie, and then the ending scene makes it a 4-star.
Don't forget the dog person. The person's face on the dog. That was really weird. Do you guys remember that part? Watch that on YouTube.
And I do want to also mention that a lot of these movies, I think in the 70s, when it comes to horror, they have such an added advantage of the 70s look and style of
Yes.
film that was going on. They've tried to actually recreate that with the Conjuring films, and it's worked to a great success. But there's something now about how clean and how digital the film and look of everything is that doesn't give it that horror look. Like we in our
That's
minds,
interesting.
I think we almost think of the way the 70s films looked has a horror look to it, but it just lends itself to, I think, elevating the aesthetic of it all.
It's scary when things aren't clear, you know? I think it wasn't intentional. It was just the fact that film stocks weren't that fast back then, you know, and you know, the technology has come a long way, both in film and obviously digital. But you know, that's what makes horror movies and thrillers scary, is not being able to see things. It's what you don't see. And when things are kind of soft or fuzzy or grainy, because it's film grain, like when you can't see things clearly, it makes you uncomfortable, right? Like we squint our eyes, we want to see things sharply. It's the single most used kind of sense we have, but you can't. And you're watching this thing, you're like, wait, what's happening? Can't see their eyes, and it messes you up, right?
Yeah. And the older style clothes, it worked both in The Wicker Man. Like, we're not used to that look of the way they're dressed, the way they act, and same with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's just the way they dress
Jesus,
and look,
it's
just
old.
different. But you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. When things are unknown to us or different, they also make us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't belong here. These people are different than me. You
Yep.
know, it freaks you out. Psychology, right?
All right, here it is, our number ones, John. What do you got sitting
Well,
there?
I feel, you know, now it feels less impressive for me to say
Yeah,
it.
right. You ruined it.
You ruined it because you said no Halloween,
Yeah.
and you said no Exorcist, but you didn't say no Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna flip it up and I'm gonna go Carrie.
Nice. Okay.
All right.
I mean, because Carrie feels like kind of the dawn of the 80s horror movies in a little bit. Like the style of it. We've got De Palma, right? De Palma directed it.
Another
So-
revenge movie.
Yeah, well, and it's a kind of a coming of age movie. It feels like we're kind of caught off guard a little bit by her as being like the killer, which seemed to be more of like a trend in the 80s movies. You know, until the 80s, I feel like it was always like a guy that was the. Anyways, I think Carrie's a masterpiece. I think that you can't not think of that movie and think about her covered in blood. You can't not think about the prom. You can't not. I mean, it's a masterpiece. Oh, and that's who was in Badlands. What's her name?
Sissy Spacek.
Sissy Spacek is a young woman in Badlands. Now, sorry, I'm on like a mallet kick now. You really scarred me by this whole Martin Sheen and Jodie Foster thing. I was like, oh, that movie makes me really uncomfortable as the father of a young girl. But yeah, Carrie. I mean, I think Carrie is it's a lot of fun too to go back and watch that movie.
Holds up.
they keep, they've remade it, and I don't know.
Right.
The Chloe Grace Moretz one was not terrible. It was not terrible.
Not terrible, but it doesn't have that aesthetic I think you were talking about, Rye. This kind of like
It doesn't.
edgy, like grainy, like uncomfortable imperfection, right?
They explore the character of the mom. Wasn't it Julianne Moore playing the mom in the
remake?
In the remake, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad because we got a little bit more into who the mom was and where she was coming from.
Well, Julianne Moore is fantastic.
She's fantastic, right?
Yeah. But what I love about the original Curie also is that it's proof that Sissy Spacek wasn't always an old lady. Right? She was young once. Because I think
Go see Badlands. She was really young once.
Right. But in our lives, I always just know Sissy Spacek. It seems like she's been an older lady for like
was she Steel
25
Magnolias?
years,
Is that Steel Magnolias? That Sissy Spacek?
Jeez, I don't know. But she was just in the movie with Robert Redford, the last Robert Redford
Old Man
movie.
and the Gun.
Yeah, which was good.
It was good.
And she still looks great.
I know. I'm not saying that she doesn't. I'm just saying, like, in my mind, I always just think of
as
Sissy
an old
Spacek
lady?
as an older lady.
Well,
like,
I
old.
don't because of Carrie.
Yeah.
I mean, Carrie's a movie that I've just returned to year after year after year. So that's kind of how I see Sissy Spacek,
How many times have you seen it?
At least, I want to say like 7 times, maybe.
Wow. It's another one of those movies where if I hadn't looked it up, like going through 70s movies, I would have told you that's an 80s movie for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to fit, especially since all the Stephen King, like the glut of King movies came out in the 80s. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and stick with Texas Chainsaw Massacre because, again, my theme here was to go for the things that scared me the most, and I didn't know a movie could be that mean. Rob Zombie tried it with House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, and I think he got close. And then, like, later on, Eli Roth would try again with, like, kind
Hostel.
of Hostel and coining the whole torture porn. Yeah, and then we got, like, Human Centipede and stuff like that. It all owes a debt to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You don't get those movies if you don't have this. This is the seed that twisted plant grew from. And the first time Leatherface opens the secret door and grabs the kid in a bear hug and just takes him into a dark chamber and then boom, the door slides shut. We never know. We don't see what happens, but the horrors we imagine, going back to what you were saying, what we don't see is so much more frightening. But then you do get to see some of the horrors of the house, and each time they show you a little bit more. Tobe Hooper reveals a little bit more and plays just another card. The movie just gets meaner and slower and more brutal in its murder and just, oh man, attack. Oof. It's a tough movie to sit through, but like when you get to the end, it's almost triumphant.
I've only seen it one time because it's just too scary.
Yeah.
I enjoy a lot of horror films. I don't enjoy that one. Like, I don't ever look at that one and think, you know what? I'm going to watch that this Halloween. Yeah, too scary for me.
I like scary movies. I don't like torture movies. That doesn't, like, the idea that people are being tortured, like the whole, you mentioned like Hostel, the Eli Roth stuff I did not get into, or what's the little creepy dude who Jigsaw, he rides around on a bike. Saw. Yeah, like I did not get into those because for me it's just like we're gonna torture these people or make them torture themselves. I'm like,
For the most part, I agree with you, but I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a cut above all those others.
It's so classic. It's a meme, right? Like there's a commercial on right now that's basically a Texas Chainsaw Massacre commercial, but it's like kids in horror movies make bad decisions. Like, hey, let's go hide out behind this wall of chainsaws. Like, I mean, even if you don't know Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everybody knows Texas Chainsaw Massacre without seeing it.
It was a genre buster for sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, my number one, spoiled by Matt Kay earlier on in the list, but I'm sticking with it. 1979. It's not only my number one 70s scary movie, but to be honest, the scariest movie I've ever seen in the sense of when I saw it. We all have that moment when we were kids.
Was your dad out in the yard sharpening his axe?
The Amityville Horror. Number one. So it was, I think, a combination of the right age. I was too young to see it kind of deal. Go over to a friend's house. And I even remember where I saw it because this was not a friend that I hung out with at his house all the time. It was more like I had only been at this kid's house 2-3 times in my entire childhood, and one of them was to watch the Amityville Horror.
Yeah, not a good scene.
Never good.
Never wanted to go back. Did you?
He had an older brother. I had an older brother. Like, oh, you got to watch this movie. We put it on, and it was just that kind of moment. Where it was like, 3 or 4 of us watching the movie, scared the living hell out of us. We were all way too young to watch it, and another friend of mine, and we had to go back to my house. We came out of his house, and maybe that was 10 doors down. We ran like hell back to my house, and we got in. My mom's like, "What's wrong?" We're like, "Nothing." We didn't want to say that we had watched the Amityville Horror. She would have been mad at us, But we were so scared. I mean, it just terrified the hell out of me. And the movie's about a gateway to hell in the basement of a house. When I think about it, it shouldn't be all that scary. And I never want to go back and ruin it for me. I think if I watched it now, I wouldn't find it so scary. It's better to live in my memory as this crazy movie that I saw with flies and blood coming out of the walls and those scary windows, and that's it. Just leave it there.
I rewatched it in the aughts. It held up for me, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still liked it.
I like looking back on movies with that sense of nostalgia, but I do feel like there are certain movies like that I could never recreate the first time I watched them. So why try? I get that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go either way on those things. Now I have to go see Amityville Horror. Apparently, did you watch it on VHS?
On VHS back in the day.
Was it
100%.
recorded off something? It wasn't beta.
No, I even believe the VHS. I remember it was one of those that popped up on the top. Do you remember these?
Oh yeah.
The tape that actually popped up on top and you pushed it down. I remember that, and I remember just being sort of creeped out in the guy's house because when you're a kid and you're in someone else's house
Were you
and
in
you
the
don't know it
basement?
well. No, we're in his living room.
Okay.
But I remember they had like really weird, big, tall windows with like long curtains that I didn't
Was it a
have.
thunderstorm outside?
No, but it was just creepy. I remember it was just like big windows with curtains, and then we were watching
There's
this
a tree
movie.
branch bumping the window.
It scared the hell out of me. It's funny too. It's Josh Brolin is.
Is the little kid?
No, it's James Brolin. I'm sorry. Is his
as
dad.
the dad. Yeah.
Which is Josh Brolin's dad.
Right.
It's crazy.
That is pretty weird.
Honorable mentions before we go to break
I
here.
got one.
I mean, just the heavy hitters that we tried to avoid talking about: Halloween, Exorcist, Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only one that was on my list that hasn't been mentioned is Omen. The Omen.
Yeah, that I saw
pretty
that when I was going
freaky.
down the list. Yeah, Damien.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that kid's name Damien? He's like
Right.
the spawn of Satan or something.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you become a parent, I think that movie hits a little extra hard.
We knew a kid named Damien, and so people were all like, "Oh yeah, Omen. He's the Omen." Just like my daughter's name is Annabelle, and kids at school would be like, "Ooh, did you see Annabelle the movie, or like the creepy doll movie or whatever?"
Awesome. Good list, guys.
Yeah, this was great.
Jawheads, if we missed your scariest movies made in the 1970s, please tweet us at Cinemajaw. We'll retweet it because people love getting recommendations right around now to watch horror films. So please tweet us your suggestions, or you can always email us, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Matt's got a review of a documentary he got to see that I didn't.
Yeah. It's fair play.
You watch documentaries, Matt?
I love documentaries.
Plus, Matt is taking John on in movie trivia. Stick with us. As we know, Wes Anderson likes to work with familiar actors, many of which pop up in all of his movies. It's always a treat when a new actor joins the family and nails it. Such was the case in 2012 when Edward Norton starred in the charming Moonrise Kingdom. Our introduction to Scoutmaster Ward is when he comes out of his tent and does a morning inspection of the camp. His line delivery and tone heard here is perfect Wes Anderson material.
Kotak, what's all this lumber for?
We're building a treehouse.
Where?
Right here.
That's not a safe altitude. Why is it up so high? If someone falls from there, that's a guaranteed death.
Well, where would you have built it?
Lower. Nickleby, what are you doing?
Pest control, burning some ants.
Spot checked. Your socks are down, your shirt tails are untucked, your trousers are not properly pressed. You are reported for a uniform violation. How many rockets you up to, Finagle?
16 and a half, sir.
Is that enough for the hullabaloo? Isaac, go fetch another pint of gunpowder from your armory shed. Redford, pull! I saw that. How fast were you just going?
Safe to death, sir.
Come again?
The vehicle appears to be in good working order. I'm just checking if...
Reckless cycling, second warning. Next time I take away the keys. Morning, Chip.
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with John Otterbacher. He directs films. He's working with IFA, but he also is helping out a film festival. Isn't that right, John?
Yeah, you know, I like to be involved with as many film festivals as I can. You get Chicago Underground Film Festival and Chicago International Film Festival. Lots of stuff coming up, but this one was kind of close to home for me. You know, being I'm on a skateboarding kick, obviously, and these guys reached out to me. The Chicago Action Sports is the organization, and they're putting together a film festival right now, and they're looking for amateur skateboarding videos or professional filmmakers who are making videos or even documentaries about skateboarding, and they're putting together a festival. It's going to happen next month. And they gave me an email address. It's casfilmfestentries@gmail.com. And this is their 6th year. So Chicago Action Sports Film Fest, 6th year. They would have done one last year, except for COVID. They do cool events all over Chicago at all the local skate parks. My daughter, she was like, "Oh yeah, I know them," and she has a T-shirt. So they're a thing. And, you know, you got a lot of skateboarders, and it's a thing in the skateboarding world to document what you're doing and showing that off on social media. But you very rarely get to see it on a big screen with your peers. And so that's what they're doing. It's not just skateboarding, rollerblading and roller skating, snowboarding, rock climbing, I think, BMXing. So they're embracing all action sports. I think skateboarding is probably the dominant one, but everybody's involved and everybody's welcome.
Awesome.
That is cool.
Can we put that email in the show notes, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a free event at a Chicago Park District building too. So it'll be all the homies rolling up, all the skaters and all their friends. So it should be a good time.
I just love how John's got his hand in everything film Chicago, you know?
You know, I just am really a curious guy.
Same, man. Same.
I'm into lots of different stuff, you know? And as long as you're into lots of different stuff and you're excited about things, there's never a boring day, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
I live my life that way, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Good stuff. All right, before we get to our second review and play some movie trivia, we did throw a few items into the fish tank.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of skateboarding and 70s horror, things right up Phil's alley. I know he wants to swim up to the top, talk a little bit, so let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, so much for that wonderful intro that I will certainly fail to follow through on. I have not skated since I was quite young. Cycling kind of replaced that for me. But I will say, there's like tangential overlap. I know a lot of fixie punks definitely started skateboarding, so
it's never too late to come back, man.
I was never that good to begin with, but I think
it's not about being good. It's just about.
How about if we get you like a BMX bike then?
No, I would never BMX.
Oh, okay.
The fixie's where it's at.
Okay.
Fixed gear for life. All the way.
Okay.
But yeah, I did used to skate. Ed Templeton's one of my like inspirations for getting into drawing.
Oh, his art is so good.
Hell yeah, man! My first deck was a Turtle Boy.
Hell
my
yeah.
very first. I've actually only gone Toy Machine, primarily because of Ed.
That's so rad.
I'm sure Ryan regrets even bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm completely lost.
Ed who?
Yeah.
That being said, we got a couple. Cool facts in here. Actually, I know we always say that, but every week it seems like you guys. I guess it stands to show that the stuff that you guys don't know is like the really deep cuts that's fascinating. Our first one, this one's a quick and easy one. How many times has John been on the show? He's had 5 appearances thus far, this being his 6th.
Nice.
There you go.
His last time on was episode 456, top 5 smuggling movies. And just to set the record straight, since it was a topic of discussion at the beginning of the show, that was February 3rd, 2020. I think a time that we all can remember exactly where we were February 3rd of last year.
Yep. Things were going downhill.
Yeah, everyone was like, like John said, you're kind of scared, but not really scared yet.
What's this thing? Yeah.
Yeah. Can we share a beer? No, don't touch my stuff. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Our next one, how tall are Matt Damon and Adam Driver? Wild. Okay, so here's what I learned. Matt Damon has to be a kind of a little dude because he is only 1 inch taller than me. He's at 5'10". So I'm lower average.
I would have actually guessed Matt Damon more like 5'8".
That's
so
what I was thinking. He was
5'10". I'm shocked. Okay.
Yeah, he's giant.
Well, the other shock. Okay, Adam Driver, 6'2",
Oh,
6'2".
Yeah, he's a tall guy.
That's not even that. That's 4 inches.
No. I made it up.
He's got
guys.
like a palm's width over him.
I totally made it up.
He looks way lankier though, especially if you watch like his early stuff on Girl or something. He's like before he was built, he looked like a lanky dude.
He's a beanpole.
Because he's skinny, it adds to the look
ups.
of how tall he is. Sure. I have the same issue.
Yeah.
So I have great news. It was Suspiria streaming. So Jawheads will know I am probably the biggest fan of public access local library streaming services, and the original 70s Suspiria is free to stream on Suspiria, assuming that your local library has Canopy instead of Hoopla. Maybe mine has both, so you could be lucky. And I did just for fun look it up. If you can't get the Canopy one, if you can't get the 70s one, the remake is available on Amazon Prime. And if you have both, you can double feature it.
There you go.
Compare and contrast the differences.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. That'd be a fun night.
Yeah. Watch them back to back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then our last one, how many Piranha movies are there?
Oh, man.
Only 5, surprisingly. You'd think that there'd be way more spin-offs. For a series from the 70s, that's saying... I think there's been more Carrie renditions than there have been Piranha. I should have looked that up. At the very least, I know that there's 4 Carries, maybe a 5th.
Wow. Didn't Jaws stop at 4, though? That Piranha has more than Jaws?
Yes.
Is there a Jaws 5?
No, there is no Jaws 5. Jaws for the Revenge, when the shark was actually coming after the family.
Was that the one in the Bahamas?
That's where they drew the line.
That's the one with Michael Caine.
Where they jumped the shark?
Michael Caine, yes.
Sorry.
But yeah, so there's 5. Here's an interesting, what I thought was really cool about it. The second one, Piranha 2: The Spawning, was directed by James Cameron, which the more I think about it, was probably a convoluted scheme on his end to have Paramount buy him a boat and underwater cameras. That's a little fishy if you ask, no pun intended.
Oh, wow. Wow,
just go ahead and intend the puns.
I did know that Piranha 2 was James Cameron's directorial debut.
Yeah, that's crazy. He worked on Planet Terror also. He wasn't the director. He was like a PA or something. Yeah, true story.
Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in here.
All right. Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
All right, guys. It being spooky month and all, I decided to check out a documentary called Smoke and Mirrors, The Story of Tom Savini. I'm a huge Tom Savini fan, but I had to say I'm sad that this doc is pretty surface level. There are some cool talking heads here, including Robert Rodriguez, Jerry Only from The Misfits, Danny Trejo, and many others that have very nice things to say about Savini. Too nice. While we do get to hear about his divorces and troubles, it never really delves deep. The problems are just blips. It's like, then I had a divorce, and then I got happy again, and my love of cinema got me to my happy place, and everything's great again. it's, and I'm sure that's all true, but a good doc has to balance the trials with the triumphs. And unfortunately, Smoke and Mirrors is just a fluff piece. I say go read his books instead. I was really disappointed with this one, Ryan.
How many Jaws, Matt K?
Listen, I love Tom Savini, and I actually want to have this out with you because I said, hey, I just watched the Tom Savini doc, and you said, who? And I am just repulsed by that answer.
All I know is that he works on like masks and...
You didn't know that. You didn't know that until after we had this argument.
Masks and special effects of some sort.
All he does is work on masks, and he's a giant. He's a legend. He's the Jim Henson of special effects, dude. He's like universally loved. Anyway, the doc was okay because it's about Tom Savini, and I love Tom Savini, but I'd have to give it 1.5 Jaws.
Yeah, universally loved, and we got who talking about him?
Everyone. John, please back me up on this one.
I mean, he's legit like VFX makeup guy, Though I was just looking him up too because I'm thinking like I know him.
He's Sex Machine from Dusk Till Dawn.
Sure. But I was like, what movies did he start out on? And he started out on all these 70s movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead.
Necrophile. Not seen that one.
He was tapped. He was tapped by Romero to do the VFX and makeup on the original Night of the Living Dead, but he was stationed in Vietnam at the time, so he couldn't do the movie.
He couldn't bounce and do it, but he did the second one, Dawn of the Dead.
He did the second one, and he acted in it as well. He's had some surprising acting roles. There's one thing the documentary showed me. He was in Perks of Being a Wallflower as a high school teacher.
Interesting.
Kind of like an off role for him, against type, because he's usually this like biker badass guy in these movies. But
who's the guy that did the Walking Dead stuff?
Wait, the director?
No, the makeup guy. That's who I thought. When you said Tom Savini, I thought that's who it was, but it's not. Anyways, there's like those are the two famous guys. There's Tom Savini and this other guy.
We'll throw it in a late fish tank. Phil, get it by the end of the show.
I always hate when I watch.
But I bet you this other guy learned at Tom Savini's school.
Probably.
There's no doubt.
Yeah. I hate watching a doc on somebody I love that's not great.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just disappointing.
It was just a bunch of talking heads. They didn't get into any like real like trouble. Like, you got to show me some of the warts and all. And there were no warts and all. This is just like Tom Savini's friends made a movie about him for his birthday. I'm sorry.
I mean, Trejo was in it. I mean, I always love a little Danny Trejo.
Was in it, but to be fair, the interviews, he's standing up. So I think they like got him on like red carpet at Comic-Con or something. Seriously. Hey, we're making a Tom Savini doc. Can we get a few quick quotes from you?
Hey, nothing wrong with stealing an interview from somebody that doesn't want it as they're passing by.
Hey,
sure.
Been there.
Yeah, don't got to tell us. We're podcasters.
It was cool to hear about his early career and stuff and how he got started, but then it just went downhill.
Yeah.
All right. How many Jaws did you say?
1.5.
1.5 Jaws. That's disappointing.
No jaw-dropping moments at all.
Okay. Yeah. We won't even go there, Matt K. All right. We got the fact already. Phil is signaling over. He's already found this.
We do. So I looked it up. The Walking Dead VFX guy is Greg Nicotero, who I think it was John who had said it. He was. I mean, the guy, no wonder he's so successful. Like, his mentors were literally George Romero and Tom Savini.
There you go.
So,
right.
Boom.
But he had like a Predator was the coolest one that I saw that he'd done, because Predator is also iconic. That's another Greg Nicotero.
That's Nicotero?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think like
that is a great design.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole lineage though, like that those guys built on each other. Like they learned from each other and then would take it to the next level. And Nicotero is kind of like the guy the last couple decades or whatever.
Even circling back to a previous topic, Greg Nicotero did do the VFX for a movie that Ryan, I assume, loves given his top 5, Piranha 3D.
Oh, there we go.
Wow.
Comes full circle. Thank you, Phil.
Ba-doom.
Yes, love it. All right. Coming to the end of the podcast, we always like to end it with some movie trivia. This is very competitive, and we've been doing this on Zoom for so long.
Turn the phones off. Yeah, no,
I got to look at these guys. Phones off. They're sitting right next to each other. So no fisticuffs here.
We got to tie our wrists together with a ribbon and each hold our switchblades in our left hand.
All right. Matt Damon, Adam Driver are working with Ridley Scott, and it got me thinking that they've worked with a lot of great directors. So all I'm going to do is give you the actor, either Damon or Driver, and the movie, and you got to tell me who directed the film.
All right.
Pretty simple?
I'm going to
Pretty
be
simple.
so bad at this, and I'm a film instructor, so this hurts on so many levels.
8 questions. They start off easy. John, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first or let Matt go first.
Give it to me. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
There we go. Question 1. Starting off easy. Over to you, John. Matt Damon starred in The Departed. Who directed it?
Oh, Scorsese.
There you go.
Oh, I
told
love
you.
this.
Softball to start it off. 1-0,
Beautiful.
Johnny. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, also easy. Matt Damon pops up in Interstellar. Who directed it?
Christopher Nolan.
There we go. Gradually getting harder here. 1-1. Question 3 back over to John. Adam Driver is in The Last Jedi. Who directed it?
J.J. Abrams.
That is incorrect.
Oh, I got that. Yeah.
That is incorrect.
It's Ryan Johnson.
That is who we were looking for. Yes.
Wrong Star Wars movie.
It is 2-1, Matt K.
That was a cheap steal. Sorry, man.
It's all right.
2-1, Matt K.
bad.
Question 4 is over to him. Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. Who directed it?
Oh, shoot. I should know who
I got
directed
this
Good
one.
Will Hunting. I should know that right off the top of my
Gonna
head.
steal it. I can feel it. Give it back to me.
It's probably coming back to you because I'm going to get it wrong.
Who directed Good Will Hunting, Matt K?
Yeah, I don't know if it was somebody like really, really big.
Arguable.
I don't know.
I don't think you know this guy that well, though.
Zemeckis. I don't know. I got nothing here.
Holy cow.
You followed up, Back to the Future
Yeah,
with a little Good
I
Will
love
Hunting.
Why not?
I love it.
How about this? My Own Private Idaho. Do you know that film?
I do.
Okay.
Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix.
Directed by
I have no idea.
Gus
Zemeckis.
Van Sant. Gus Van Sant.
Yes, Gus Van
I'm
Sant
reading a
is who
book
we're
about My
looking
Own
for.
Private Idaho right now, but I am a Gus Van Sant fan.
Yes.
Elephant.
Yep.
Yeah.
He ties it up
Last
2-2.
Days.
It's a B-52 song as well, isn't it?
Gus Van Sant?
No. My Own Private Idaho. I'm pretty sure it
Maybe.
is.
It's 2-2. Question 5 back over to John. Adam Driver pops up in Logan Lucky. Who directed it?
Oh, I mentioned him earlier in the podcast. His movies are always interesting. Soderbergh.
That is correct. Takes the lead
I wouldn't
here.
have gotten that.
No?
No,
Takes
and I
the
love that
lead
movie.
here.
You can just guess Soderbergh. Any movie you don't know, like it's possible he
a good
directed
shot.
it.
I go
got a
to
good shot.
Zemeckis. That's my go-to.
It's 3-2, John. Question 6 is over to Matt K. Adam Driver, his first appearance on a big screen movie was in J. Edgar. Who directed J. Edgar?
Oh, now that was a big one. Was J. Edgar? Well, you already did Scorsese. I'm going to say it was Oliver Stone.
That is incorrect.
Wait, this is a movie?
This is a movie. J. Edgar.
Wasn't
About-
Leo in it too?
Leo DiCaprio played J. Edgar, but Adam Driver does appear in the movie. So who directed J. Edgar?
It's not Scorsese. I mean,
I'm not going to say Soderbergh 2 times in a
No,
row,
I'm not-
John. You
can't
know.
do- I can't do-
Zemeckis. Come on, go for it.
I mean, Spielberg, I really have no idea.
We're looking for Clint Eastwood.
Really?
True story.
Really?
Jeez.
That's a
Eastwood.
weird combo. I
We
wouldn't
just-
even think they would be in a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
Let me set the stage here. It is 3-2, John. There's 2 questions left. Question 7 is over to John.
A lot of
Matt
pressure.
Damon starred in The Rainmaker.
Oh,
Who directed The
Coppola.
Rainmaker? That is correct.
I'm a Coppola nut. So.
I don't think Matt would have got that.
Hell no.
No.
Which Coppola was that? I mean, it can't be
Francis
Francis
Ford.
Francis
Really?
Ford, yeah.
No
It's one of
kidding.
his later movies. His movies got kind of... Rainmaker's all right.
It is 4-2. It's all over, Matt. But the last question of the game is over to you. Adam Driver in Midnight Special. We reviewed it here on Cinemajaw. Midnight Special.
Yeah.
Adam Driver.
With Michael Shannon.
Correct. Who directed it?
It's kind of a sci-fi joint. I don't think that was Abrams, but I'll guess J.J. Abrams.
That is incorrect. Any guess for you, John? Midnight Special.
I am not aware of this movie, so
It's kind of a decent little sci-fi horror-ish romp.
Sci-fi horror-ish romp.
More thriller than horror.
I know. It's not Denis Villeneuve, so
No.
I don't know. I got nothing. Like,
We were looking for Jeff Nichols. Jeff Nichols, who's great. Good work.
interesting.
Consistent.
Midnight Special.
Yep.
It's
Midnight
worth
Special.
checking out.
Yeah.
John, can I get a handshake here, or at least a fist pump there? John wins this one 4-2. Well done, John.
Got lucky. I got lucky on
If it
these.
came down to a tie,
that was skill.
We call it a jawbreaker. This question would have been to you, John. Better acting chops, Damon or Driver?
Driver.
I'd give that to him. I think Driver does have the better acting
Correct.
chops.
Yeah.
The
I
real
like Matt Damon.
The real jawbreaker was this: age of Francis Ford Coppola, closest to Matt.
I
You
was
gotta
just
guess.
thinking that. I was actually kind of amazed that he's alive still. I hate
Bro,
to say
he's
that.
old.
Yeah. He's not quite. He's an octogenarian. I'd say he's like 83.
Lock him in at 83. John, you got to guess.
I am a Coppola nut. I'm trying to think his early movies.
Because he was old even then.
I'm going to go 85.
Give that to Matt. 82.
Wow.
82 for Francis Ford Coppola.
Wow.
He's getting up there, though.
He is.
Yeah, no
and
doubt.
I haven't, he's been making his movies on his own for the last couple of years. And he funds them with his wine money, and he just makes whatever he wants. And I don't know anybody that's seen any of them. He's made like 3 or 4 of them. He just like makes.
Maybe
his movies.
Clint Eastwood should take a page out of his book. Did you see his last movie, the horse one?
Crying Macho?
Yeah, not the horse one, the chicken one. I guess there were horses in it too. There were horses and chickens.
Oh my goodness.
The movie's named after a
I
chicken.
heard it's family friendly though.
Oh, for sure, but your family won't like it.
Nobody will.
I did not see.
I hate to say it because, somebody making a film at 91.
Is that how old he is?
Yeah. And
I
he
mean,
stars
respect,
in it too.
Stars and
Total
directs.
respect.
And he shoots for like 8-hour days. His crews love him.
And he fights. He's got fight scenes in it.
Yeah.
And he's picking
winning.
up ladies. He's picking up ladies in the movie. He's 91.
Dude, if we could only be so lucky.
Yep.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Not good. Not a good movie though.
No. We were both down on it.
Yeah. It's just a shame.
It is. John wins this one. It's always a pleasure and
What do I
fun
win?
having John. We're going to
Our
come up with a
undying
prize.
gratitude and respect.
We got to come up with something.
All right.
Yeah, we should.
But
But it used to be like Cinemajaw stickers. Would you like one?
Absolutely.
I think I got some in my backpack.
Okay.
All right.
Brings us to the end of a great and very fun jaw. John, thanks so much.
Thank you guys for coming out and for, exploring the space with us and just for including me. I always have a good time. I always forget how fun this is, to just hang out and talk about movies with people that love movies. I mean,
Well, keep hanging out. We'll talk some Last Dragon for our folks on Patreon.
We're finally recording our Last Dragon Patreon review.
It may even be up by the time you listen to this podcast.
Yep.
Who knows?
Matt, we also got to thank the sponsors.
Yep. Thanks to Overcast and to the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get sponsors like them.
We also got to thank our engineer, our editor, Fill Me In Phil.
Oh, always happy to help out, guys. Wouldn't be anywhere else.
If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And please click subscribe while you're there. It helps us out a lot.
It sure does. Until next week, I'm Rye, the movie guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on jawing about the movies.